If our girls can grow up to be tough and assertive, then why can't our boys grow up to be nurturing, sensitive, and empathetic? So this topic is about what our boys could miss out on if they don't get to play with certain toys such as dolls and loveys. And it's going to be slightly different to what some of my previous videos, because I'm actually going to read a bit of a story that I found here in the library, or more like it found me, and it really inspired me to make this video. It's called William's Doll, and it's a great it really depicts what it is that I'm going to point out to you about the importance of our boys playing with dolls and why sometimes in certain households we forbid it to happen. So one of the reasons why, and this may be you or your partner, that your child is not playing with dolls, or one of the reasons why society, some of the parents forbid our children, forbid is a bit of a strong word, but feel quite uncomfortable and restrict our boys from playing with dolls and loveys, is in the fear that the boys will grow up to be too emotional, or they'll grow up to be too girly when they're older, or there's very much this kind of segregation, this divide between girl toys and boy toys, and boys should be boys and boys shouldn't cry and boys shouldn't be so emotional, and otherwise you're just behaving like a girl. So that it can sometimes stem from that. And sometimes some fathers or some especially it definitely stems from fathers. It can stem from some fathers where they say, look, I was raised to not play with toys. I was girl toys or dolls and puppies and Barbies, and they kind of project that experience and those beliefs onto their children, believing that a man should grow up, or a boy should grow up to not show so much emotion, to be manly and be very assertive and strong, and playing with dolls would literally diminish that possibility. So there's this kind of misunderstanding of what it actually means to be masculine, because to be masculine is to actually be in acceptance and be comfortable with every aspect of a man, including the emotional side. So being in touch with emotions is super important for having healthy relationships. Being in touch with your emotions is being able to tap into your inner creativity, and being able to get in touch with your emotions is allowing you to have empathy for others, and it helps you to develop, it will help our boys to develop emotional intelligence as well, because if they can understand their emotions and how they work, and if they know how to express them in a healthy way, they'll be able to interact and interrelate with other people around them and be able to adapt themselves accordingly to the other person, which enables them to have really powerful, meaningful relationships. So it's super important. So what are the actual benefits of playing with dolls? Because if you are already allowing your son to play with dolls, to get in touch with that feminine side, if you want to label it as that, for me, I just feel like it's explorative play. When they're playing with a range of toys, they're just allowing themselves to express themselves through toys, through a range of them. So if you are already allowing that, I want you to know what the benefits are, so that you can feel proud and feel reassured that what you're doing for them is beneficial for them, and it extends beyond just them playing with toys. And if you are kind of on the fence of I don't know if I want my boy to play with with dolls and loveys and teddies, or not too much into it, this video will hopefully help broaden your perspective and open your mind, and maybe think, oh, okay, I know what these benefits are, and maybe I am going to warm to the idea and allow my child to play with dolls, especially if your boy is already showing interest of wanting to play with dolls, of wanting to play with teddies and Barbies, etc. If they're showing signs, then this video is going to super duper help you open up your mind to allow them the possibility of expressing themselves in that way. According to science, playing with dolls, playing with Barbies, playing with female related toys allows boys to enhance their creativity. And enabling them to enhance their creativity is because they are able to divert their energies from playing with scooters, playing with boy-related toys and cars, etc., which is kind of gets them in tune with, I don't know, like toy guns and things like that. It kind of gets them in tune with their masculine side, yes. As the same for if girls are interested in that and playing ball and play with balls and football. But then once they start playing with the girl related toys like Barbies, dolls, etc., they are able to tap into their more nurturing emotional side. So it allows them to think more broadly about their surroundings, and because of that, they're able to think and express themselves more broadly in terms of their emotions. So when they, according to science, when children play pretend play, when boys play pretend play with dolls, they are able to do role plays and express themselves without any fear of failure, without any fear of judgment, any fear of the external, the real world getting to them and stopping them from expressing themselves. So it really allows them essentially to broaden their perspective. So how amazing is that? Simply playing with dolls allows them to broaden their perspective and get super, super creative, right? It also allows them, like I said in the beginning, to be more empathetic. So this book is so sweet. I'm going to read this to you in a minute. Not the whole thing because it's a bit long, but I'm going to kind of go through some of the chapters, some of the pages on here. But being able to be more empathetic with themselves through playing with dolls allows them to be more empathetic with others, because they are able to tap into the caregiving side of themselves. So when they get older, they'll know how to give themselves and be social with others in abundance. So they'll be able to have those nurturing, positive relationships. They'll be able to deal with those difficult conversations or those difficult situations that they need to problem solve. So if they're going through a struggle with their boyfriend or girlfriend, they will be able to see their perspective rather than just getting stuck into their own perspective, and they'll be able to find a solution that's balanced for both people. And this will be so beneficial in their workplace, in their careers. Like, it really extends to so many parts of their lives that could be really, really beneficial. So for them to be able to be empathetic with themselves, they'll be able to manage their emotions in a more healthy fashion, and they'll be able to help express themselves more appropriately with others. Another benefit is that it helps with language. So playing with dolls, playing with Barbies allows them to role play, because they're like mini versions of humans, right? Statue versions of humans. So they get to pretend that the doll is, one day the doll could be, I don't know, one of their favorite characters on their cartoon show that they always watch, and then the next day it could be an enemy from Spider-Man film that they just watched. So they can get super, super creative, and from that express themselves through words. Okay, so it really allows them to role play and get creative and use drama through playing with dolls, and it's a lot easier to do that with dolls than it is with a car truck, right? Also, playing with having dolls allows them to have comfort. So when your child is feeling anxious about starting school, or they're feeling anxious that you're leaving them for the day, they can go and get comfort from their favorite bear or their favorite lovey or their favorite doll, and it allows them to just get relaxed and have that anchor so they can get grounded again and feel good again. And I know that we have our own strategies, we have our own tools for feeling better, for feeling safe. When we're feeling down, who do we go to? We might go to our best friend, or we might go to watch our favorite movie. Think about the tools that you use to get yourself grounded again, to make yourself feel better. Your child's doing that through their favorite lovey, through their favorite doll. So prohibiting them from doing that stops them from being able to manage their emotions with tools. So dolls are a tool for them to be able to do that. Also, allowing our children to play with dolls, allowing our boys to play with dolls and loveys, and I keep saying these again, loveys, dolls, Barbies, those ranges of toys, allows us to break those gender walls. So it allows us to say, okay, yeah, you're a boy, yes, you're a girl, but you can express yourself in many different ways. Like, you don't need to be restricted to just your gender. You don't need to be limited. Again, this allows us to reinforce their creativity. Because people who are creative, they feel limitless. We need a feeling of limitlessness and confidence and inner worth of who we are, and we need to feel comfortable in our own skin. So in order for us to be able to do that, we need to be able to use tools and toys in order for us to express ourselves in those creative ways. So if we only play with a limited amount of genre of toys that are known to be for boys and girls, then we don't ever see the other side of the world. It's almost like you're saying, I'm only going to let you visit certain countries, on the north side of the earth, but you can't go to the west because, you know, you might end up being too influenced by them and you become a different person. But then they don't get to broaden their perspective. They don't get to see the world for what it is, for the beauty of it. They don't see the whole, they only see a quarter. So that's the same thing if you take it in with toys. If you only give them a certain genre of toys, then they miss out the next genre, the next types of toys that they'll never get to experience, which then when they get older, you know, in the long term, it can have a detrimental impact on their creativity, their emotional intelligence, their social skills. So it is really, really, really beneficial to look into allowing our children to express themselves through toys in the best versatile way possible. So some of the pitfalls, however, there's one major pitfall to avoid when it comes to our children playing with, our boys playing with dolls and lovies and Barbies, etc. One of the pitfalls is that, according to a child expert, if, say for example, your son is playing with a toy gun, right, or one of those blasters, a blaster, right, for example, and they want you to play with them with it, so they'll say, "Mummy, Daddy, play with me with the toy blaster," and you go up to them and go, "Oh, no, you don't play with the toy blaster. Here, look, here's a doll. You know, let's play pretend play with a doll." So what you're saying to that child is, I still love you, right? And I still want to play with you, but only if you play with this doll. So it's almost like you're saying, I only really love you when you play with a doll. So our children can't understand that all you're wanting to do is just, you want to minimize the, sometimes and I can get quite concerned with, like, a lot of violence is promoted in toy games and, you know, those toy guns, etc. But sometimes our children want to express themselves through those pretend games, right? But when you say, "Oh, no, don't play with that, play with this doll with me," you're saying they don't understand that what you're just trying to do is protect them and get them to find a different way of playing, more gentle way of playing and expressing themselves. They most likely will take it as, "Oh, well, you don't want to play with me then," and then they'll go in the bedroom, they'll throw a tantrum, close the door and start crying, because they feel like you haven't seen them, you haven't wanted to get into their world and enjoy them and enjoy what they want to do with their toy right now in that moment. So you don't want to force your boys to play with dolls if they're not showing any interest. Allow them to develop that for themselves. Or if you suddenly see them wearing your shoes, your high heels, mums, don't worry about it. They're just curious. They're always seeing you wearing shoes. They're curious about that feminine side of you, and they want to explore it. It doesn't mean, dads or mums, that your child's going to be gay when they're older, okay? It doesn't mean that that's the ingredient for it. They're just expressing themselves in that way. Not that there's anything wrong with it. If they want to be gay when they're older, in my opinion, that's fine. But that's another topic. So allow them to express themselves and choose the toys that they want when they're ready. We don't want to force them to play with dolls. What I would do, I don't have a son, maybe in the future I will, but I will just leave the dolls out to play, and I'll leave some Barbies out, and if he ever wants to use them, he'll use them. You know, just like I leave books and certain intellectual kind of like puzzles around in the house for my baby girl. When she's ready to play with them, she just grabs them and she plays with them. I don't actually just force her to always play with them and be like, "Come on, let's play this." I let her lead, and it's quite a Montessori method of using toys, basically. So in a nutshell, playing with dolls is super beneficial. If you want your son to be creative, if you want your son to have emotional intelligence, if you want your son to be able to grow up, to have flourishing and powerful and loving relationships with his girlfriend, then playing with dolls, getting in touch with his feminine side will really enable him to do that. It's almost like, think about it this way, if you allow your son to have a really good relationship with their mum, if they show respect and empathy towards their mum, they are more likely going to find it super easy to have those type of positive relationships with other females in the future, right? So if you allow them to express themselves in that way and express themselves and pretend to be dads, play dad role plays with dolls, they will be able to grow up and be amazing dads. So there's so many benefits to allowing your child to tap into their feminine side. So allow your child to cry, allow your son to cry, allow your son to have a lovey and hug his lovey and go to sleep with his lovey. Allow your son to sit down with you and be able to express how he's feeling, that he's had a bad day and someone's upset him and he's really upset. Like, allow him to express himself so that he can learn how to manage those emotions, because that is what it means to be a whole and complete human being. To be able to express himself and share those emotions with you and open up to you so that he feels safe, and he's able to then learn how to manage those emotions, and he's able to teach his future children how to manage those emotions so that he can become the best version of himself. But if we don't allow him to express himself, express his natural feminine instincts, his natural way of being, and that's what makes him human, then he'll just repress those emotions, and they'll come out in different ways. They will come out. So he'll repress them, but he'll probably grow up and he'll start rebelling, or he'll start to close in and he won't open up, and he'll just be silent. Whenever you want to get through to him, you can't. Or whenever you want to impart some words of wisdom or some advice, he's just going to close in and not going to want to listen. Or he's just going to grow up to be super macho, and he may be... I'm kind of exaggerating with the spectrum, because I feel that there's just a spectrum. It doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, my child's never played with dolls and he's definitely going to grow up to be aggressive. That's not what I mean. But if we don't allow our children, we need to find a really healthy balance. If we don't allow our boys to show themselves and express themselves as freely as they can, they are more likely to fall into the pitfalls of being more aggressive, having more difficult intimate relationships with the opposite sex. So we really want to think about the long-term benefits and not be so worried about, oh my gosh, what if my child's too feminine? What if he's too soft? What if he gets bullied? Those are just fears that maybe fears that you've probably experienced when you were younger, and because of the way you were raised and told not to cry and grow up, boys don't cry, and act grown up, be muscular, and think about what has that really done for you. Are you really flourishing in the areas that you want to flourish in? Are you finding it easy to express your emotions? Are you finding it easy to get your needs met by having this kind of macho mentality? Does it always really work for you? Anyways, I'm waffling on, but I just wanted to quickly go through this book, because essentially this book, I got it from Williams Doll. Like I said, it's called Williams Doll, and it's an amazing book, and it's basically about a young boy who has a desire for playing with a doll, and he goes around asking for it, but then his brothers are like, no, you need to play tennis with me. So they go and get like a tennis racks out, and they say, oh no, you need to play tennis. And then his other brother, he's got two brothers, his other brother goes, oh, you'll be a sissy if you play with a doll. Boys don't play with dolls, that's just like sissiness. And then he keeps asking, yeah, okay, I'll play tennis with you, but I still want a doll. So he still goes around, and there's part of him that's quite sad because he wants to play with a doll. He wants to be nurturing towards the doll. He wants to take the doll for a walk. He wants to feed the doll, and he's just like kind of fantasizing about what it would be like to play with a doll. And he sees his neighbor, which is a little girl, playing with a doll, and he's there watching her, and he's like, oh, it looks so fun. But he still doesn't have one. And he goes back and he asks his father, can I have a doll? And his father's like, no, you don't want to have a doll. Here, look, here's a basketball. Here, look, I'll set it up for you. I'll set up the net. You go and play basketball. And he goes to play basketball, and he's happy playing basketball, and he's enjoying it, and he's getting really good at throwing the ball in the net. But he still wants to play with a doll. So he goes back to his brother, he goes, I want to play with a doll. And one of his brothers is like, no, that's just like sissiness. And keeps using the word sissy. No, please, dolls are for girls. You do not want to play with a doll. Look, here's a train track. And he builds a train track with his brother. And and then William starts to play with the train track. And he has fun playing with the train track. But he still wants to play with a doll. And then this begins to continue where he goes back to his dad. And his dad's like, no, you're not playing with a doll. Look, here's a train station, go and play with that. And he gives him alternative toys that are boy related, boy toys. But then his grandma comes to visit, and he tells his grandma, I'm having so much fun playing basketball, playing tennis, playing with my train tractor. I'm having such a good time, but I still also want to play with a doll. That's what I really actually want. But Daddy keeps giving me other toys whenever I ask for a doll, and he keeps telling me to play with my train tractor. And then when I ask my brothers, they call me a sissy and say that boys don't play with dolls. And then his grandma says, she just comes in with like a load of wisdom. She goes, oh, that's silly. Let's go to the shop and let's get you a doll. So she gets him a doll that he's always wanted, and he gets so happy, and he ends up going and playing with the doll. And then the grandma goes and speaks to the dad, and the dad's a bit upset, and he says to her, oh, you know, why did you get him a doll? Why doesn't he need a doll? And she goes, so that when he's a father like you, he'll know how to take care of his baby and feed him and love him and bring him the things that he wants, like a doll, so that he can practice being a father. Oh, sweet. So our boys play with dolls so they can practice being a father. I think that's super, super sweet, and really encapsulates my whole point of nurturing that growth process, that developmental process of allowing our children to express themselves through a diverse range of toys, including boys' toys for girls and girls' toys for boys.